Well, hello everybody, again. Welcome to the stream, welcome to Flight Past. This is a continuation from last week's stream on Operation Tonga. So if you can remember, last week we followed the adventures of Major John Howard's D Company of the 2nd Battalion of the Bucks Light Infantry as they were infiltrated into Normandy at the Caen Canal bridge. And we did a very successful landing there, emulating the skills of Staff Sergeant Jim Warwick, which you can see on Spotify at the moment. And today we're going to follow the other half of D Company. Gliders 1 to 3 landed to the south of the bridge, which is now known as Pegasus Bridge, all landing within a few hundred yards of each other. Glider 1 hitting the barbed wire fence, probably about 50 meters from the objective. Gliders 4, 5 and 6, I'm going to talk about them now. Their objective was the bridge at over the Orne River, which is a couple of hundred yards, maybe 500 yards east of Pegasus Bridge. And their mission was to come in from the north and landing north of the bridge, but to the west of the river. But we're going to start with Glider 4, and as you can see here, we're approaching the French coast. I've got the same settings again. We've got it's June the 6th, it's a full moon, and we're approaching the coast. We're at 6,000 feet. We've got broken cloud base at about 2,000 feet, and the tops are about 5,000 feet. If we now, this is we're going to emulate Glider 4 here. We're starting off with Glider 4. This was the glider that contained D Company's second in command, Captain Priday. His name was Captain Brian Priday. And of the 6 gliders, his was the only glider to land basically off target. And we're going to have a look here at what we think might have happened. We've got the French coast, and let's just I put in sort of some of the known facts about what's going on. We'll need to adjust our heading down to here. Where this purple line is, pink line is what I think might have happened. We know you've got the 2 estuaries. You've got the River Orne estuary at Easterham, but you've also got, there's actually 3 estuaries. There's the River Dives estuary that flows out at Trouville sur Mer, and you also have Le Havre. You've basically got the Seine estuary coming out of Le Havre. And Le Havre is this big group of lights here. So over in this direction here is, I believe, this is Seine estuary, and we have somewhere in this region we've got the Divers River estuary and the Orne estuary. Orne estuary is over here on these lights. So let's just go back into the cockpit and let's give ourselves a bit more of a right turn to line up with our magenta line. So, as we discussed last week, guys 1 to 3 were aiming for the gap in between the Divers estuary and the Orne estuary, and a gap at Carberg where the RAF had identified a gap in the flag. But the Halifax that was towing Glider 4 made a navigational error. And I believe, if we look at the coast here, you can see we've got Ouistreham up here on the right, and in front of us is Carberg, I believe. And actually, sorry, Divers estuary comes out at Hulgate, Carberg, which is, I believe, where we're heading to right now. So I think they made a navigational error somewhere in this region. We've got the advantage of obviously having the town lights, but there's, without any of these lights and the coverage of cloud, it would be very easy to mistake if you're out by a few degrees in your navigation. So I believe this is where they came over. Now I know from after action reports on gliders 5 and 6 that when they got released over Franceville Plage, which is almost on the just on the edge of the Orne estuary, they would do a series of 3 compass bearings at 90 seconds each. So they they must have come down and done a dog leg or something like that to come in. So I think that's what these guys were going to do, but they couldn't recognize where they were. And reports have it that, and this is I'm quoting from David Saw's excellent book Sky Warriors, that Glider 4 was released over Varaville. Now Varaville is actually inland, so this is where, if you look at the we're going to come across the coast, just at Divers-sur-Mer. We've got Carberg here on the right. You can see that dark patch there, I believe, is where the gliders 1, 2 and 3 went in. This is the Divers estuary, and this is where Preday's glider 4 came in. So let's just pause here. So they are off course. They're on the wrong estuary, and there are reports that they get released over Varaville. Now, as I say, Varaville is inland, and to the right. So that they must have maybe... It's hard to say what actually happened. They could have gone ahead and released at this point, tried to do their normal turns, realised that they were completely off course, and then headed back to one of the rivers, or they were searching desperately for the drop point or the landing zone, couldn't find it, could see a river in the moonlight, and headed to that. So this it's hard to say where they were released. It's hard to say where they landed, but we do know that they were on the when they were on the River Dives, Dives. They weren't on the River Orne. So let's continue and see if we can get any information about where we think they might have gone. If they released here and they did their sort of legs to head south, it wouldn't really make. Here you see they might have decided that they were. It could have been cloudy, didn't know where they were. Maybe clouds obscured the coast, and maybe then as soon as they saw Varaville, or maybe they just decided that they just had to land. This makes a little bit more sense of a route, because if you are the Halifax pilot, your actual target is on this trajectory. You're heading here towards Caen and the cement factory. So maybe the pilot realised his mistake, started heading to his objective at this point, and this looks like this is the point in here where the glider was released. So let's be a glider. So we know at this point they're at 6,000 feet. They probably dived very quickly. We are already over our target now, so they're probably searching for their target. They're looking for the river. Now, presumably, Captain Pridet was aware of the whole Operation Tonga objectives. They probably had, or were told, what the other, no, presumably is, they know that the bridges on the Dives was to be destroyed. There were 5 bridges along this stretch of river, and they were likely knew that they had to be destroyed. So presumably at this point they know. Maybe they've been told by the Halifax people. Here's the river here. So we are. This is obviously going to give us a crash, but there we go. Welcome to Normandy. Let's go out as we can. Okay, so let's just see where we are. Let's get the light up. Still getting used to these controls. Let's. Okay, so this is where we've crash landed, and which. Okay, so we survived. The aircraft's in one piece, and we know that Captain Pride knows he's off course, but he knows that these bridges on the river need to be destroyed. So they go about this. In fact, you can see here this channel looks a lot like a canal, and this one looks like a river. So you can see maybe how they might have been confused by this. But they go about taking on and destroying this bridge, or possibly this bridge. I'm not saying it's exactly this one. There are 5 bridges all the way from here to I think it's Truan, maybe further south, but they were all objectives of the British paratroop brigade and Canadians, and this is probably one. So Pride knows his objective. He therefore does uses his own initiative, blows up one of these bridges, because this we're looking here north east. The part of Calais is up there. So if any German reinforcements are going to come to Normandy, or the Germans will move their panzer divisions down, they can come through here, and then these bridges are very important. This force, if I destroying these bridges, you force any immediate reaction by the Germans to be going around to the south there and come round to the south of Caen. And this is, as you can see, is quite a low level, low lying, waterlogged ground. So it's not good tank country to go across country. So these bridges become even more important, and that's why they were targeted to be destroyed on D-Day. Now they were rebuilt. The Germans would get them back up and running again, probably within a few days. But it was enough to make sure that the main objective of this Operation Tonga, which was to protect the eastern flank of the invasion. So that's not a bad landing, to be honest. I'm going to put that one down to okay. And then he then has probably I think it's a 24-hour adventure, heading all the way across here to rejoin with Howard in I believe they meet up in Ranville. This is about 8 miles across. Yeah, so they now will head back this way. They don't meet up back with D Company until the early hours of the 7th of June. So whilst we're here, let's just have a quick gander at the area we were talking about. We have the River Divers to the right, and then over here is the River Orne. There were a number of drop zones. Let me just get find. I'm going to check James Holland's book now on Normandy 44. And he's got some excellent plates at the beginning of his book that show these drop zones. So, Varaville, where it's reported that Prede's number 4 glider was released, which I believe is this village below us here. This was actually the center of drop zone 5, or V, sorry. And so this will be where the Canadians dropped down here. So this is so drop zone Victor. Down to the south, which I believe was somewhere. I think Varaville was there. It was south of Esquiville. I think this here was actually drop zone K. And then we have drop zone, I think it's called N. Check these notes again. So drop zone N. Drop zone K was around the, it's called the Bot de la Hogue, between Touvreville and Couvreville. Drop zone N, which was it's the main drop zone for this part of the Operation Tonga. That was between Ranville and Benouville, so to the north east of Ranville. So we'll go a quick look at that, which is here are this is Pegasus Bridge and Horsa Bridge. This is Ranville. So this area here was known as drop zone N, and this is where Nigel Poet's paratroopers came down in this area here. And then the other one is drop zone K, which is this area here to the north west of Pegasus Bridge. And up here you can see this is Sword Beach. So yeah, so this drop zone here was designed to aid the link up between the beach and the bridge. Capture the bridges here with coup de main. They landed down here, and paratroopers landing to the north here. There was parachute drop to the near Varaville, but in this area. This was where Lieutenant Colonel Otway landed, and that was designed for the coup de main operation, which is on this these group of buildings here, which represent the Merville battery. So let's just come back out. Let's reset this now, and let's do the gliders 5 and 6. So they came down. Well, they report, according to David Soul, they cast off over the Franceville plage, which is this beach here. And according to his notes, they made 3 compass bearings of 90 degrees. Sorry, of 90 seconds duration, until they were pointing due south. Now, what does that mean? Well, we know that they landed here in this field, and I believe even that this circle area here may represent one of the landing sites. Now, you're going to be flying over them some pretty... This is Ouistreham Harbour here, so you can have anti-aircraft a lot there. But what does it mean? Let's start then. Say it kind of makes sense that they might go for the same gap in the air defences, which is about. So let's start our flight here, and we know we're heading. We're going to try and head for these. I mean, they were aiming for this, I think, here. Now, did I not set departure? Okay. So when they say 3 compass bearings, I mean, I would say, what makes sense here? I mean, for me, if you're coming down here, you would be using this bend in the river as a proper, so as a marker. So I would probably say we'll go here. The only problem is this is so close to the Merville battery. It's that's a little bit worrying for me. Gliders coming over the top of the Merville battery are just going to be an alert. So we may need to change this. And they're talking 90 seconds. So if you cast off here, 90 seconds somewhere, 90 seconds another way. You don't want to be coming over Ouistreham. And you want to be low enough to see this canal and just use it to come in. It makes it a tricky one, doesn't it? I mean, they could Well, let's keep it simple. I think we may see something like this, and there may have been some added shenanigans going on, but you don't want to be doing too much complicated stuff at this point. Let's start there and see what we can make of him. Right, first of all, let's get some height. Just do some flying for a bit. I think we haven't done much flying so far this episode. Okay. Well, this actually might be a good point to go to part 2. So if you've got any questions, shout them out, and I'll sort of read them out. Otherwise, let's just make this part of the first part, and I'll see you in a second when we get to 6,000 feet. So welcome back to part 2. We're currently circling just off the north coast of Normandy, and trying to get some height here as we try to reenact the landings of glider 5 and 6 at the Horsa Bridge. I'm just going to put this onto autopilot. Alright, we just need to change now the we're going to do this in the night. We've got it on the 6th of June, so let's now put it to around midnight. We know that John Howard's guys in the Glider 1 landed at 16 minutes past 12. Let's just take these lights off because we don't want those on. Okay, so coming up to 6,000 feet. We know reports mention that they came in at 6,000 feet over the coast, but Dennis Edwards did mention in his report that his verbal interview with the Imperial War Museum that he believed it was 4,500 feet. So we'll get up to about 5,000 feet here, and we'll go from there. So we've got the River Orne estuary here. Glider 1's already gone in, and then gliders 1, 2 and 3 have already gone in, and now we're going to reenact gliders 5 and 6. Okay, we're going to need stall in. is not good. Okay, this might be a good time to... Okay, let's just hand fly this now. So we're going to come across the beach at Franceville Plage. And we're going to... see if we can land this by the bridge. So I think they would have wanted, you could have gone straight down the estuary, but they obviously probably didn't want to notify the anti-aircraft people. They're also part of a bombing mission as well, so it makes sense that they will probably be all together with gliders 1, 2 and 3. Around about here then, let's cut the engine and let's go into glide. They try to dip very quickly, and now they try to keep the airspeed high. And what we're going to do is we're going to look for this bend in the river there. The Halifax bombers would carry on towards those lights in the distance to bomb the cement works. It's interesting that they used two different directions to approach these bridges. Presumably, I think we will turn here. This is the bend in the river, so that makes a visual reference. Probably another 90 seconds on this course. Okay, 1,000 feet. So we'll be looking here. This is basically our runway. We follow this the river. No, we're going to just make sure we don't stall here. So we can see the bridge up ahead. So the approach into the Horsa Bridge was a lot easier, but I know from notes, from reading about some of this stuff, that they hit a few pockets, air pockets, I believe, and turbulence. So it makes you think that, you know, the wind direction might have been playing a lot more on the gliders on this side of the the approach than on the ones coming from the south. Okay, so that's well, but as right, let's have a look at where we were. Both the gliders on this side didn't land as near as gliders 1, 2 and 3. So it makes you think that the wind was a factor, because the approach looks a lot easier from this side. Okay, so this is where we crashed. And of course we probably would have carried on, but we're pretty close to where I believe they did land, which is one of them landed here. I believe this is what this circle represents. There's, and then the bridge was there, so they were probably about 400, 500 yards maybe from the bridge. So this is so the two gliders remained. So they did this approach from Franzville. The number 5 a glider, the pilot, apologizes to Lieutenant Todd Sweeney for landing short. An air pocket had dropped them about a quarter of a mile short of their target, and it took them 10 minutes to reach the target. So if we were, I mean, you can probably see 10 minutes. Yeah, it looks like probably about a 10-minute. By the time you've sorted yourselves out and got everyone together, then it's probably going to be 10 minutes to get to the bridge. So number 6 glider experienced control issues after the casting off. They were found to be deeply overloaded, and when the Halifax bomber they released the cable, the overloading became an issue, to the point where the Staff Sergeant Roy Howard, the pilot, had to shout to Lieutenant Dennis Fox that he needed to get 2 men to the back of the glider as soon as he could. So they obviously went into a steep dive, and what they found was that when they were trying to pull out of the steep dive, the glider wasn't responding. It was too nose heavy, so they had to get people to move to the back. But because they'd lost so much height in this time, he had to raise his flaps in order to flatten the glide and extend it. But that one did eventually arrive a little bit 100 yards nearby, and to the bridge. Now I just checking the map. I can't see, but you can. I can't see any markers. This might be one here. Might be a vehicle. Some of these things may be indication of where the glider came down. That might be one. But so glider 6 got within 100 yards. So we're talking 5 of the 6 gliders landed within a quarter of a mile of their intended target. Which is pretty impressive. And the 6th one, even though it didn't reach the target, actually performed a useful operation anyway. The time of the 6th glider landing was at 19 minutes past 12. So it was about 1 hour 23 minutes since the takeoff back at RAF Tarrant Rushden. So now I think we'll discuss what happens next. Howard has landed here. They're sorry, let's just find this notes. So when Howard has landed, he's slightly knocked out. Lots of these guys, I think, banged their heads on the roof of the gliders and were slightly concussed. They were coming in at about 80 miles an hour, and Howard's glider had bounced twice. They roll out of their glider, and Lieutenant Brotheridge is the first is out, and Howard instructs him to push on with the number 1 roll. So Brotheridge, let's find get a picture of him for you. Oops. Whoa. Oh. Just dropped something. That's Monty. This guy here. Lieutenant Den Brotheridge. He runs up this small incline. It's a shame that the bridge isn't here, but it's actually this is a new bridge, by the way. The actual bridge is over here. This is where they put it. This is the sort of the museum, and he runs up anyway. This small incline here, and the sentries on the bridge, German sentries on the bridge, they heard the what sounded like a crash, but I mean, the amazing thing is they didn't do anything. They just felt it was possibly a damaged Allied bomber crashing. It must have been that common. So they don't do anything. But when Den Brotheridge leads number 1 platoon across his first squad across the bridge, the German sentry fires a flare, a Vari-Light it's called, and the German sentry gets shot. Den Brotheridge pumps him with his Sten gun. Brotheridge, sorry, he charges across the bridge with Bill Gray and Dennis Edwards, and according to the after action report, they say that a machine gun opened up on them from the west side. So the very light goes up, there's Germans on this side, they open up, but they then run. On the whilst that's happening, Private Wally Parr and Charlie Gardner, they're instructed by Howard to do task number 2, and that was to take out the pillbox. And pillbox was on the east end of the bridge here, which they there's a phosphorus grenade being thrown. I think Den Brotheridge had thrown it, but they then approached the pillbox and quickly threw in a few grenades and a Bren gun. Task 3 was they're carried out by Gray, Packwood and others as they cleaned out the slit trenches on the other side. So there were slit trenches along the side of the river on both sides. When Gray returned, he finds that what's happened is that Den Brotheridge has run across the bridge, and he's been shot from the west side, on the sort of northwest side of the bridge, and he's basically been shot in the neck. He's got one of his phosphorus grenades, they believe, was also hit. It might have been firing off, and he was lying on the ground. So this guy is the first sort of, I wouldn't say he's the first casualty, but he's the first casualty on the assault on D-Day, actually dying in action. He doesn't die straight away. I think he is pretty sure that it is a mortal wound. It takes him, I think, about half an hour. The two gliders behind Glider 1, they were about 30 yards behind. We're talking basically this area here. Glider 3, as I said last time, it's believed that Glider 3 might have overtaken Glider 2 in the approach, and that might have led to Glider 2 having a particularly hard landing. The glider at the back landed hard at an angle, and it's partially submerged in this pond here. The pilots are thrown through the window, and a lot of some of the troops, I think 5 of them, are trapped, and Lance Corporal Fred Greenhalgh, he was knocked unconscious and drowned in the shallow water. Sandy Smith's platoon, he's injured. Sandy Smith, the lieutenant's injured. He's hurt his wrist. But he gets to Howard, who's on the eastern side of the bridge, and he is given the task to move across the bridge and take on the right-hand side. So Brotheridge has gone to the platoon is moving to the left, and Sandy Smith's platoon move to the right this way. So remember the orders that Howard was given back at Broadmoor. So he is expecting, basically, from the report that he was given by Brigadier Nigel Powett. He is told that he can expect a counterattack any time after H-4. Now, H hour, I believe, is 7:30. So we're talking possibly 3:30. And he's been told the attack will take the form of a battle group consisting of one company of infantry in lorries, possibly up to 8 tanks, and 1 or 2 guns mounted on lorries. Or it may be a lorried infantry company alone, or infantry on foot. And the most likely line of approach for this force is down one of the roads leading from the west or southwest, but a cross-country route cannot be ignored. So when Howard then is expecting the enemy to come from down this road here. This is we got Caen here in the distance. The Germans, I believe, are around in this area, and so he's thinking that they might come across country. They might use this road up here, or they'll but they're definitely going to be coming from this direction towards the bridge. So he has to get his men. He's now going to protect the bridges, and he's got like 2 platoons on this side. So we're not talking more than 30 men. So we're talking probably just this area here, and then this area here. You can't quite see it, but this is it's actually a bit of a drop down from this bluff up here. It's quite hard to see, but they will be protecting this road coming in here. So the bridge is captured. It's captured within 10 minutes. On the other one, as we said, we just landed over here. They landed short. One landed short and took 10 minutes to get to the bridge, and the other one landed at 100 yards. Gets to the bridge. As you can see, it's not more than. We're talking maybe 200, 300, 400 meters between the bridges. So Lieutenant Fox in glider 6, I believe, he captures the bridge. They destroy a machine gun with a mortar round, and basically the Germans on this bridge, a lot of them just run away. Lieutenant Todd. Todd Sweeney. He arrives when they arrived from Glider 5. By the time they get there, that 10 minutes it takes them to get there, the bridge has already been captured. So they radio to Howard's signalman Tappenden to say that the bridge is secured, but number 4 glider is missing. And they also say that the bridge here has been wired, but the explosives are missing. And this is something I forgot to mention. The other task was that the sappers would go along the bridge here and remove all the charges. So they went through, clipped all the wires. The pillbox was believed to have the actual firing mechanism, trigger mechanism in it, and that was taken out. So so at 12:26, as I say, 10 minutes since Howard's number 1 glider had landed, and within 1.5 hours since taking off from England, Howard instructs Tappenden, his signals guy, and Batman, to send the signal ham and jam, which was meant for Brigadier Nigel Poet, who was he's the commander of 3rd Parachute Regiment. Nigel Poet, the Brigadier, he had jumped into the area not long actually after the gliders. He arrived, I think, let me just check my notes again. He arrives not long after. By the way, let me just say this whilst I can. I'm using Discord for a lot of my notes, and you can join that Discord channel in the link in the profile. If you do, you can scroll down. You'll see D-Day, and then you can click on the timeline post here. This will give you all the times that I'm using, and you'll see notes there. You can add notes. You can question what's happening. You can do all that great stuff, and if you do write something in here, I'll mention it as I get to it. But this says here that the Pathfinders are dropped east of the Orne, and this is the drop that Brigadier Nigel Poet comes with. They're 6 Albemarle aircraft, and he drops into drop zone N, which is this drop zone which we mentioned earlier. It's to the north east of Ranville. This is Ranville here. So we've got the bridges. This is Ranville, and the drop zone is here. So Howard is trying to message Nigel Poet at this point here. So they're saying ham and jam, ham and jam. So yeah, Brigadier Poet is the 5th Parachute Brigade. So and he's in charge of the 5th Parachute Brigade. So their task, so they're divided into the 7th Parachute Battalion and the 12th and the 13th Parachute Battalions. One of them, the 7th Parachute, was going to land in that DZW, which is north of Pegasus, between Benouville and Ouistreham, which is this one over here that we talked about. And the 12th and 13th Parachute Regiments dropped on Drop Zone N, which is to the north and northwest of Ranville. And they're set the mission to seize the bridges over the Orne and to seize and hold and clear the area around Ranville in preparation of the glider reinforcements that are coming in at 3:45. Now, Brigadier Poet, these drops were designed to come in at quarter to 1. The Poet's been dropped in about half an hour earlier in order to set up the Pathfinder signals to guide in and the planes. Whilst we're here, I'll just show you. So the 3rd Parachute Brigade, that was under Brigadier James Hill. Remember, this is all under in the 6th Airborne Division. The 1st Canadian and the 9th Parachute Battalions are the ones who dropped to the southwest of Varaville, which is this town here. And so Varaville was the sort of center of the drop zone. We have the 9th Parachute Battalion. We'll talk about that in the next episode. They're the ones who will head to the northwest here to destroy the Merville battery, which we discussed earlier, which is this cluster of buildings here. And the 1st Canadian Parachute Battalion, they were the ones who were tasked with destroying the bridges at Romholm, which I believe is one of these ones along the river here, possibly the one that we landed by here, and another one somewhere around here, possibly here. Then in Drop Zone K was the 8th Parachute Regiment, and that was the one, remember, which we were talking was south of Esquiville. And they were tasked with destroying the bridges over the Divers at Burez and Truan. So we're talking down in, I think it was this area here. This actually would become an important area later on in the Battle of the Normandy, because this is the area where Operation Goodwood begins. So this was actually the drop zone for the 8th Parachute Battalion here. Okay, so that's how that sort of Discord works. And as you can see, there's all sorts of things. It will give the time, it gives you the where it is. So if you want to click and see what's happening at any point over the battle on D-Day, it will show you where it is. Like, for example, here we've got this is the Merville battery was attacked at the same time. So the other thing was Nigel Poet. I think these guys were being dropped down at this time, and a lot of these the Merville battery was attacked at the same time as well, which was a bit of a planning error on their part, because it meant there may be parachuters in the bombing area. Okay, so let's. So that's by the way, let's just get rid of this picture now. So that's Den Broveridge, obviously, very brave man. Bit of background on him. I believe he was one of Howard's friends. I think his wife was pregnant at the time. Yeah, so very sad. But in the scheme of things, this operation passed off pretty quickly. Now, these bridges, why are they important? Well, let's put it this way: both sides would rather blow these bridges up than allow the other side to have them. Was one. It was important because it's an obvious point of that the Germans can use to counterattack. We've got, I believe, elements of the 21st Panzer Division are based to the south here, so this would be a good place. To cross any reinforcements would obviously the quickest way would be across these bridges here and through across these ones here. So the Germans would have wanted to blow these bridges up if they could. The guy in charge of the bridge, he was actually, I believe, in Ranville on the evening. But although the bridges were wired to be blown up, the charges weren't put in. I think they just believed that they'd have time. They didn't think, that a coup d'etat would happen. And they thought, well, hundreds of paratroopers dropping here usually will give you a good chance to blow the bridges. So they just didn't expect it, I suppose. As for the British, ham and jam was the best scenario that they could have got. They did, though, plan that they wouldn't be there. They would have been blown up. Howard's gliders all contained dinghies to cross these waterways. So if they had been blown up, then he would have had to have got those dinghies and got his men across the water. So it would have made it very difficult to protect those bridges. But I suppose if they had been blown up, the Germans won't be able to use them. So, but it did mean that the 6th Airborne would be isolated on this side. In the landing beaches, they would have had to. They did have Bailey bridges come in, but that meant you'd have to get the Bailey bridges off the beach through Ouistreham, down here. It took a few days for them to do this. The two bridges that they had was London Bridge 1 and 2, and they were put across. One of them was a little bit further down. I think it was somewhere around here. They had a Bailey Bridge called London 1, because even later on at Goodwood, a month or so later, this bridge wasn't enough for them to for the Allies. They actually had to put in 2 more bridges, temporary ones, to get their armour across. Right. So that seems like a good place to wrap that up. If anyone's got anything to add, then please do. And next episode, next live recon, we'll be looking at what I would consider almost the most truly insanely brave and tragic part of this operation, Operation Tonga, and that was the coup de main operation going in on this site here, which is the Melville battery, by Lieutenant Colonel Terence Otway's 9th Parachute Battalion. Insane story around that, which we will tackle next week. So I hope that gives you a good insight into the into D Company's insertion into this into the battlefield. Later on, we can discuss in a future episode. We can discuss the exploits on the day, how they held it. As Nigel Poet, the brigadier, said, capturing the bridge should be the easy part. Well, yeah, pretty difficult, but lightly armoured glider-borne troops have now got to hold these bridges for as long as possible until they are relieved from the sea. So we are talking here. So in summary, the British have captured these 2 bridges. We've got ham and jam signals sent out to Brigadier Nigel Poet, who's in this area here. We're going to have the time is at about 12:30 on the 6th of June, and we'll now then, as I say, we'll move on and talk about the Melville battery assault, and then we'll discuss what happens during the morning of the 6th of June in this area. But so far, the operation has gone okay. So I will speak to you next week on the live recon. This will has been the recon of this thing. I've been using it to look at the battlefield, and tomorrow I will repeat this exercise on YouTube, and you'll find it'll be broken up into proper parts on there. This is on Twitch, streamed live. When it leaves Twitch, it's moved on to Spotify, and as you said, so that's the recon side of things, and the history, the proper episodes are on YouTube, and you can find me there under Flight Past. Thanks for watching, thanks for putting up my waffle, and I will see you on Twitch next week.